Hey, welcome back to your favorite Math 126E class for calculus. Let's take a look at reviewing our negative exponent rule. So you notice there we have a to the negative n is 1 over a to the n. So 6 to the negative 2 written with positive exponents only would be 1 over 6 squared. In other words, 1 over 36, 6 times 6, right? 13 to the negative 2 would be 1 over negative 13 squared. Well, negative 13 times negative 13 is 169. 1 over 9 to the negative 2 would be 1 over 1 over 9 squared. Well, we know when we divide by that fraction, we're going to multiply by the reciprocal. So this just ends up being 9 squared times 1 all over 1, so 9 squared, or 81. So the way I think about this, if I got a negative exponent, that's just going to take it up to the top, make it a positive exponent. That's how I like to think about that. But technically speaking, is 1 over 9 squared. It's just 9 squared. All right, let's look at the fraction rule for negative exponents. So you get a over b to the negative n. So that would be a to the negative n over b to the negative n. So that a to the negative n would go down and become a to the n. The b to the negative n on the bottom would then go up, because that's 1 over b to the n, so it would go up and become b to the n. So that's b to the n over a to the n. In other words, b over a to the n. So if you're ever seeing a over b and it's all to a negative n, if you want to, you can just flip that and make that to a positive power. See how we get there? Either way. Right? So here's a couple. We got 2/5 to the negative 2. So that'd be the same as 5/2 squared, or 5 squared over 2 squared. So 25 over 4. 7/4 to the negative 2. If you want to pause the video and check yourself on that. Well, this next one we got 1 over 7. I'm going to write this way, times 1 over x to the negative 10. All right, well, that x to the negative 10 is on the bottom. That's going to go up for us. Become x to the 10. And then we just multiply the 1 times x to the 10, x to the 10 over 7. Next one we got x to the negative 7 times x to the negative 4. Well, x to the negative 7 I'm going to write as 1 over x to the 7 times x to the 4, or x to the 4th over 1. Now I multiply numerators. 1 times x to the 4th is 1x to the 4th. X to the 7 times 1, 1x to the 7. I would go ahead and cancel your x's here. You know, you got 4 x's on the top. You got 7 on the bottom, so you're just left with 3 on the bottom. Or if you want to do it this way, you can just subtract that. That would give you, 4 minus, so you subtract those exponents, you've got the same base there. So it'll become x to the negative 3, which is the same as 1 over x to the 3. Either way, however you want to think about that, just make sure you do it correct mathematically. We've got x to the 3rd over x to the negative 5. So a couple different ways you could do this. I'm going to take that, I got that negative exponent on the bottom, so I'm going to take that up and write that as x to the 5th, right? Because that's 1 over x to the 5th in the denominator. Make that x to the 5th go up. And then 3 plus 5 looks like I got 8 of these, right? The other way you could do that, if you wanted to right off the bat, you've got the same base, so you could just apply the rule a to the m over a to the n is a to the m minus n, right? So we could go x to the 3 minus the negative 5, which is 3 plus 5, or 8. So So either ways would be fine on that. Here we've got negative 6 x to the 5th over 48. 48 I'm going to write as 6 times 8. So I see my 6's cancel. I've also got 17 x's there. So we've got negative 1 x to the, oops, my 6's cancel. Negative 1 x to the 5th over 8 x to the 17th. And now I'm going to write that as negative 1 8 x to the 5 minus 17. So that'd be negative 1 over 8 x to the negative 12, which means that x to the negative 12 will go down to the bottom. Or if you want to write out 5 x's on the top, 17 on the bottom, cross them out, and you're going to see that there's 12 x's on the bottom left, right? Next one we got y to the negative 7 over y to the 3rd to the 4th. I got a power of a power right there, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply the 3 and the 4. I got y to the 12. And at this point, you can just apply that power rule, a to the m over a to the n, a to the m minus n, so you can go y to the negative 7 minus the 12, which is y to the negative 19, which is 1 over y to the 19. Right? The other way you could do this, when you've got this y to the negative 7 over y to the 12, is you know that y to the negative 7, that's going to go down. So the y to the 7th would go down, become y to the 12, y to the 7th, sorry, on the bottom. You already have the y to the 12th down there. And then y to the 7th times y to the 12th is y to the 19th. So either way, however you want to think about that, again, just make sure you're running your rules. You're using your rules correctly, you'll be fine on these. Here I've got a power of a product, so I got to take the 5 to the 3rd, I got to take the x to the 4th to the 3rd. And so we've got 5 times 5 times 5 is, what's that, 125? And I got x to the 4th to the 3rd, I got x to the 12th over x to the 14th. Well, I got 12 x's on the top, 14 on the bottom, so they're all going to cancel except 2 on the bottom. So I got 125 over x squared. Or you can go x to the 12 minus 14 is x to the negative 2, which will then take it down to the bottom, become x squared. This next one would be a good you try problem if you want to pause the video on that. So here we'd have negative 6 is to the negative 3 power, so that'd be 1 over negative 6 to the positive 3 power. And then power of a power, we're going to go ahead and multiply those, so that'd be a positive 12. So we've got 1 times y to the 12 is just a y to the 12. And then negative 6 times negative 6 times negative 6 is a negative 216. But we want to go ahead and write that, take that negative up top there. Negative y to the 12th all over 216. Here I would go ahead and take care, since those are the same base, the x to the 6th and x to the 4th, let's go ahead and simplify that first before I take that to the negative 5 power. So I got 6 x's on top, 4 on the bottom. I'm left with 2 on top. And now I got power of a power, so I got x to the negative 10, which of course is 1 over x to the 10. Here we've got 4x over 3y to the negative 2. Let's do this one. Notice that fraction, or that rational expression there is to a negative 2. So I'm going to go ahead and write that. I'm going to flip that and make it to a positive 2. We could do that too, right? And then we've got 3y is being squared, 4x is being squared. So we got 3 squared y squared over 4 squared x squared. So it looks like we got 9y squared over 16x squared on this one. Go ahead and try that next one. Pause the video. Now go ahead and check yourself on that you try problem right there. And then we'll go ahead and move into the last couple here. I've also got these to a negative exponent. And know that they're already negative exponents. So I'm going to do this in a little bit different. Let's go like this to the negative 2, and let's go like this, bottom one, also negative 2. So you've got the 4 to the negative 2, you've got the x to the negative 6 to the negative 2. See how that'll be positive right there. You get the 9 to the negative 2, you get the y to the negative 8 to the negative 2. So here you've got 4 to the negative 2, x to the positive 12, over 9 to the negative 2, y to the positive 16. So I'm looking at that 4 to the negative 2. That's going to go down and become 4 squared, right? Because 4 to the negative 2 is 1 over 4 squared. That 9 to the negative 2 on the bottom is going to go up and become 9 squared on the top. These ones are already positive exponents. X to the 12, that's fine. Y to the 16th. So it looks like we got 81 x to the 12th over 16 y to the 16th. Here on this last one, I got 5 x to the 7th times 3 x to the 11th. So I'm going to go 5 times 3 is 15. I've got x to the 7th and I've got an x to the 11th. So I got product of powers there. So x to the 7 plus 11. 7 plus 11, I got 18. And notice, I should simplify this. 15 factors of 15 are 3 and 5. Factors 21, 3 and 7. And then we've got 18 on the top, 14 x's on the bottom. So I'm going to be left with 4 x's on the top. So I got 5x to the 4th all over 7. Or you can write that 5 7 x to the 4th. Same thing. Thanks so much for watching and taking notes. See you next time.